Okay, I'll try to give a little better explanation how this brake actuator works. So your brake cables come in here, and I just built a bracket that holds the end of the tube and allows the cable to pass through. And then that bracket is little bushings welded on. And then this bracket has a, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a bolt. There's a bolt down in there that goes through probably a riv nut into the frame. So that just braces the cable up there. Same thing on this end. You can see the bolt a little bit of there. And then there's two, think of them as great big old long chain links. This first link starts over here, and it's these are 1/2-inch square tubes. So this one is far and this one is near to us. So the near one comes up to here, and then this piece of metal here, there's one piece on this side that goes back to the far tube. So this link here is the far tube on this side, near tube on this side. And then the near tube on this side crosses over the actuator and goes to the far tube. Now that crossover piece is two pieces of metal, and there's one on this side of the actuator piston and one on that side of the actuator piston. So you can see this crosses over kind of diagonally from the near side to the far side. And this big square link that's composed of this piece of 1/2-inch tubing on the near side and this piece of 1/2-inch tubing on the far side passes all the way around the actuator to this here. So this is this all in one piece. All right, now on the other side you've got the same thing, just different. You've got the far tube here and the near tube here, and they pass around the actuator. And so there's the near tube, and the cross piece splits there, and there's a bolt through the actuator again. So like in a weightless environment, that's all you'd need, is just those two links going around this actuator. And as the actuator expands, it the tip of the actuator here makes this piece move that direction, and the tail of the actuator here makes the other piece move that direction. So as it expands, it's pulling these links together. And then the links they're just floating in there. There's nothing holding them to the body of the van or anything. So in order to keep everything in place, there's this second bracket here, or a third bracket, I guess. You got the front link, the back link, and they cross over each other. And the reason they cross over is it keeps the center of pull all neutral. If you made one in the front, one in the back, there'd be a twisting moment. But by making these links staggered, it keeps the center of push here lined up with the center push on the other end. Okay, so this is just a channel, and I think I used a piece of metal with a bend in it, and then back on this back side I shimmed it probably with a piece of paper and then welded another piece so that I can get exactly the right distance. I need this from this surface to that surface, because it needs to have a little bit of slop. It's got to move. You don't want it binding up, but you don't want it loose. And then the same thing on the other side. So there's this bracket in here. I think you can see maybe a bolt there where it's bolted onto the frame. And I think you can unscrew this bolt from this bracket. I'm talking like this is an alien creation. I had nothing to do with making it. It's just been a while. And as I get older, I can still do everything I want to do, but once I've done it, it goes from my head. There ain't no more room for any more garbage in there. Anyway, so here you can see the back in there just a little bit. You can see the edge of that piece of metal. I can't even point to it, but that tiny piece of metal right there, that's holding this frame, these two links holding the back side and the front side. So basically you've got these two C clamps here. There's one, or C channels. So one C channel comes in this direction, one comes from the other direction. And if we look from the back side here, you can see there's the, I think this is a factory corner from some metal, and then there's this like a fence I welded on there, and then this whole thing's got to come out far enough from the frame, so this distance right here, that's to push this out far enough from the frame that the actuator, the barrel of the actuator, you can see this side of it, but the back side of that barrel, you don't want it, it's, you know, it can't be rubbing against the frame or against the back side. So so basically this piece here, this channel, is static. A mirror image of that up on the top is static. That's all bolted to the frame, and it just makes two tracks, a top track and a bottom track. And the front and rear of these links go in the top track, the front and rear of these links go in the other track. And then these two links are interlaced, and you can kind of see the interlacing here. This one is diagonal back and in, and this one is diagonal front and out. And anyway, this keeps all the forces center lined. So the force on this cable, the force on this piston, force on this cable, and the force on the back side of the piston, which is this little plug here on the back of the actuator, are all lined up. So it just, I think I brazed these on. I found some pieces of steel tubing and a bolt that went through there and brazed those on, and then had to shorten the cables from that came from the van. They did not, I couldn't figure out a nice way to hook them up and leave them factory. So if I ever undo this, I'll have to buy some new rear brake cables. But anyway, basically wraps around with a thimble, and there's a couple of compression, or whatever you call those, the crimp fittings on there for the cables. And same thing on the other end. Anyway, it all works. It seems to give it. And if like say if it takes 1 inch of travel to put on the brake, and 500 pounds of force, then this actuator has got to move 2 inches. It's got to pull 1 inch from here. It's got to pull 1 inch from there. So the change in the piston coming out will be 2 inches, and the force on the actuator will be 500 pounds. So you get the full force of the actuator on both cables. You don't split that force. All right, well, there's 7 minutes of me blabbing about this. Hopefully that sorts out how it's all constructed.